Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 100-pounder special focus meeting of Overeaters Anonymous. My name is Rita Q, and today is the 20th of July, 2021. And I am absolutely delighted today to welcome Marc S from Los Angeles. And Marc is going to share his experience, strength, and hope with us. Take it away, Marc.
Thank you, Rita. Good morning, everyone. I am Marc. I'm from Los Angeles, and I am a compulsive overeater, a 100-pounder, emotional trauma survivor, and I am here to share my experience, strength, and hope. I've done a few of these since I came to OA. First time I thought 3 minutes, how can anyone share for 3 minutes? What do I have to say? Then I did a 10-minute one, and I was like, oh my God, 10 minutes, it just seemed so long to me. Now I'm doing this half-hour one, and I'm not even anxious or worried about it because I know I have a story. And it took OA to be able to let me tell my story. So how it was and what it was like. I don't remember ever being born an overeater, but I know I've always had a problem with, or an issue with food. My earliest memory was that I would only eat bread and water. I definitely viewed food in some way. I am the middle of 3 children, over 3 boys. My parents are separated and then divorced. I was adopted, and I also had some mental difficulties when I grew up. So all of that kind of helps create my overeating personality. But when I was younger, I had definitely a sensory problem when it came to food. It was, the color had to be right. Food couldn't be touching. There were certain things I just would not have at all. If it looked weird, I wouldn't have it. If it looked discolored, I wouldn't have it. Fruits and vegetables were, little did I know it was on my red light food at the time. It would not even, because I thought of it as poison. Slowly over time, I started adding more and more food in, but ultimately food was my security blanket. It saved me from the emotional trauma that I was going through. I definitely, with the mental difficulties, I had problems with school. I know I went to speech therapist and, to help be able to speak and to be able to read, because that's kind of forms of dyslexia. Then going on, that kind of made me also awkward and shy as a child. So I usually try to hide. I had a nanny for a short time before I can even remember. I just had one picture of her with me, and the smile on my face was of pure joy, which is one of the few times I see myself with that big of a smile that young. My mom's French, so the nanny was family friend, came from France, and then she was denied entry in the United States. And so I think, just asking my family, that's about when I started having issues with food. Moving on forward, I would slowly go into these things. I had sometimes, some issues, coordination, and my father was very narcissistic and aggressive. And it was never physical, but there was emotional abuse there. And with that, I kind of recoiled because, my parents being my higher power at the time, I just looked at them for everything. And I tried to always see, I had this fantasy view of them being, loving couple, people holding hands. I turned to television and occasionally food. But as time went on, my parents finally divorced after I thought I caused it, because I had learned divorce in school and I had no idea what it was. So I asked my parents why they weren't divorced, because every 90% of other kids' parents were divorced. Shortly thereafter, they divorced, and I thought it was my fault. Well, when my parents separated, my father got an apartment, and I was given the task to buy the food, prepare the food, make the table, and then clean up afterwards. Well, when someone is having emotional difficulties or trauma and you give them complete carte blanche access to food, sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I bought my own food. I hid it. I was not really good at it, as I left crumbs everywhere. And but nevertheless, it was to a certain extent, I guess, a cry for help. And my father was deaf when it came to that, so he didn't even hear any of it. At that point, I went to, because of my social issues, I didn't make many friends, or I didn't have that many friends growing up through high school or secondary school. I went into a young teen social group, so to speak, to help people out. And that's when I first learned of Overeaters Anonymous, because I had made a comment about food, how food gave me the sensory appreciation that I didn't have from anywhere else, and it still does to this day. So that's when it was first brought up to me. I was like, Overeaters Anonymous, I'm not an overeater. I completely went against that idea. And I didn't even think about it for a certain amount of time after that. But I still had the emotional issues, and so I still turned to food. When I went into college, and I moved out for the first time I moved out on my own, I stopped working out, which was a daily exercise part of the routine, and I got a job at a movie theater. Well, that's when I had my true first compulsive overeating experience, because for an hour and a half between the movie starts and ends, there's nothing to do, and you have this big vat of popcorn just sitting right next to me. Well, munch down that little courtesy cup of Coke or soda, and that was pretty much how I spent 8 hours, during the times in between movies. And I mean, it tastes good, which is fine, but I gained weight. And I don't have a picture of that during that time, but at least not one digital. For going down the road, I was starting to gain weight, and it was noticeable by my doctor. So I went to see a nutritionist, and who recommended OA again to me. This time I actually did go, but I still didn't think I was an overeater. So I went in with a closed mind. And I didn't hear much of through the meeting. I would try to focus on everything that was not, that I did not associate with. And sure enough, one person's share, which is the only one I focused on, was the fact that her higher power was Jesus. And so the meeting was in a church, and I was like, look, it's religious, it's this. I'm not, I'm not Christian or Catholic. It was definitely not for me. And so I focused on that. So I didn't go, but I still kept the list, because there was some voice inside me that said, you know what? Not all meetings are like that. It's not all religious. There's got to be another meeting, maybe, or if it is religious, maybe there's a meeting that you can feel more comfortable in. But I did not go. There was a meeting in my area that I could have gone, and one of my regrets and one of my self-amends is the fact that I did not go at that time, even though I didn't listen to that voice. So I kept on gaining weight, and when I was 30 years old, I hit 302 pounds. Well, at that point, I knew that I weighed too much, and that's what I thought was my ceiling bet. And so I was still going to school, and I took workout classes. Hey, guess what? When you work out and you start following a food plan, which my teacher helped me create, I lost weight. I lost 65 pounds, and I thought, I can do it. See, I don't need any program. I don't need anything else. And I felt good. I felt energized. I ran 2.5 miles without a problem. I ran to the beach, ran back. There was a bunch of things that I was able to do now. And it really did. And it was fun. I had a good time, but I did not have the emotional support or definitely not the spiritual support, which the program gives. And sure enough, I gained the weight back and then more. And so in 3 years ago, I came into OA after seeing a new nutritionist and a therapist, and who was helping me with the physical and the emotional parts of me, my health, and who assured me all my concerns with OA. And I'm going to share that picture with you, and then where I was about a year ago before pandemic just started. And here's my pictures. So the top one is me at 387 pounds. The bottom one is me at about 255 pounds. And same shirt, it's just sometimes I have to look at it to remember where I was and where I'm at. So during the pandemic, I gained a little bit of weight back because, it wasn't going out. I'm sitting at home idle. Now, the last thing is before of what it was like is I loved carbs of all kinds. Chips, barbecue flavored potato chips are my red light food. That's my go-to food, especially when I'm dealing with the biggest antagonist in my life, which was my father, who is my father. But it's that there is a point where, you know what, I can't change him. And programs help me figure that out. I can now have meals with him when I'm not feeling triggered. And it's not him who triggers me. It's his actions that remind me of the past that trigger me. And that's what really gets me going, because I will remember things that passed. And then, of course, with that, I want to go all the stuff that he used to do. And then that just feels like that weight. And you just want to protect yourself from that weight. So I came into the program feeling, you know what, I don't think I'm an overeater yet. But I came to meetings. I came weekly. I started coming to I came to 3 different meetings on a regular basis. I tried a couple other meetings on top of that. So I did go up to about 5 meetings, and I was invited to a few others. So over time, I've done more than 6 meetings. Now, weekly, I go to 6 different meetings a week, and each one has a different focus. One, I do Voices of Recovery, which is really good. Another one is it's an old school meeting, meaning there's people with more than 10 years of experience in OA of consistent abstinence. And another one, men's focus meeting. Then I do an emotional childhood trauma meeting, which definitely has helped me identify the fact that, you know what, I've got a lot of emotions that are tied in, and it's being able to recognize those emotions when I want to eat and what's going on. It's taken my nutritionist recognized that right away, that I had my emotions tied with my eating. And so she recommended a therapist to me. And even the therapist recognized it right away. But it took me time. It took me my time in OA to realize that and to understand that. Just exactly how intricate and interlaced it is. And I will want to go to food. And sure enough, my first instinct is to go, what's simple, what's easy, what's satisfying, but not what's healthy for me. And that's where I'm working towards a healthy body weight, is the fact that, you know what, I would love to have these, wonderful things as a side, but they're not, and they may be healthy or healthier than other snacks. But given 5 minutes, I was able to make even a much tastier meal, which is definitely healthier last night. I boiled some corn, and, I seasoned it just a little bit, and it came out great. And definitely tastier than anything else. Thank you. So anything better that came out of a package. So going on is, when I came into OA, I was still shy, believe it or not. I sat in the back of the room. I tried to make myself look as small as possible. Remember that picture? Not exactly the easiest thing to do. I didn't talk to anyone, but every time I walked in, I was greeted, and usually by a couple of the same people. Good to see you. Welcome back. And it felt good, and it was nice to hear that. And so I kept coming back because of that. And it's like, wait, they like me there, just for the sake that I'm there, not for any other reason. So I started in August 9th. I will have my 3-year anniversary of abstinence. And I started my abstinence on my own. And it's not a perfect abstinence, at least it wasn't at the beginning. And I was losing about 1 pound a week. Well, I talked to my therapist about it, who happens to be in OA. But he goes, that's great. You're losing weight. But on that mentality, how much do you want to lose? So I said roughly about 200 pounds. He goes, okay, with that in mind, it's going to take you 4 years to lose weight. Does that sound good to you? It didn't. I was like, okay, I could still lose it in 4 years. That's great. But, that really was way too long. So he goes, maybe you should get a sponsor. And so I really actively started listening to whom I want as a sponsor. And there was one gentleman who I heard him share a couple times. And he had everything I wanted. He was where I was, overeater. He was overweight. He didn't have friends. He had problems with his family. And yet here he was. He had a great career. Everyone loved him. He had emotional stability. He had spirituality. And he definitely, had great relations with everyone and had a family. And he had exactly what I wanted. So I asked him to be my sponsor. We started off with 1 month kind of test run. I passed, making sure I report my food to him every day and called him every day. And he's been my sponsor since. It is with great humility that I recognize that with him and everyone in the program has helped me to get where I am now. And it is not the fact that I was dragged and kicked and screaming. I had to choose to want this. And because I wanted to have a better life than I did when I came into OA. And I do have a better life. And so what it is like now, I still have my emotional issues. They haven't gone away. I still have days of doubt. I still have days of regret. I still have times where I would love to just dump into any of this. But I know that there are tools that I can use. There's people I can call that, have gone through it with me. And there are certain routines which are still really hard for me to do. My morning daily practices on a good day is I read my Voices of Recovery, my For Today books. I pray for a few minutes with these, and then I meditate. Sometimes I'll use an meditation app to do that. Sometimes it's 3 to 5 minutes. Other times I will actually try to stay quiet and I'll just let it go. And as one person in OA had mentioned and which I like, is the fact that prayer is where we ask our higher power, and meditation is where we get the answer. So here's where here's one of the things I asked, is the fact that I like to help out people. And sure enough, that was one of the reasons, is the fact that I want to feel useful. I want to feel like I'm part of things. So it stemmed out of that need of wanting to feel included. And so if I can't be chosen for a team, maybe I can help out another way. Be the bat boy, if you play, for those who understand baseball, or to, let's say the ball person in tennis, one of the ball kids. So whatever term of service. So I brought that into OA. And it really is the fact that am I now people, so it's, the term people pleasing came up. And so do I people please for being of service, or do I people please for me? And it is a fine line. And it is brought to me that the fact that, you know what, why don't you write about it? In OA, it's okay to have that, to be still doing that people pleasing and being of service with others, because although you're doing it all the right reasons, there might be the time that it's not, it may not be, you're not getting exactly for you what would be coming out, but it will work towards that. So sure enough, I go in. But the problem is that outside of OA, I still people pleased. And what OA has taught me is the fact that I can still people please, but instead of doing everyone else first, let me people please my higher power first. So what would my higher power want me to do? My higher power will want me to speak for myself when I felt like I was not being listened to, or if I was being, and it could be not intent. These things may not be intentional. Just recently, my father I was having lunch with my father and my brother, and my father was talking about something about, I had just bought a house, and my father was talking about my house to my brother and not to me. So I mentioned, I go, and all I mentioned was, hey, this is my house and it's ultimately my choice. So why don't you talk to me about it or include me in the conversation? My dad looked at me like, he's like, wait, you just all of a sudden, wait, you're here, and for a split second, he realized, or I don't know if he realized, but it was something like it stopped him from talking. And then he went right back to his pattern. I can't change how he's going to talk as much as I would love to. I would love to, maybe shock him with in some way, and get him to say, no, you need to listen to me and you need to respect me. But I can't do that. That's his cross to bear or whatever it is. All I can do is say, hey, this is me. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But I'm not going to accept, listening to what you have to say. So was the end of that conversation for me. And it really finally felt good. There were times before that I was usually ignoring it. I stayed quiet. But now I'm finding a voice, which is really, in some ways, self-empowering. It's strong. It's saying, hey, I'm here and I matter. And we all do. And there's definitely, whatever your issue with food, and mine is the fact that whenever I'm feeling emotions that I'm not familiar with or I don't like, or even those emotions I like, any emotion, I turn to food. It is my best friend. It is my lover. It is my confidant. Food is everything to me. And I need to and I'm finding other avenues of that inside OA and a little bit outside OA now. But it is, for the long time, that's what it was. And the fact that it was, because food definitely was my security blanket. And then from there, it became my moat, my walls to help protect me from the stuff I didn't want to deal with, or that I wasn't capable of dealing with at the time. So I know when I'm having a good spiritual practice, when I know I'm, engaged in healthy eating, when I know I'm dealing with my emotions in a positive manner, I have good days. And yeah, bad things will sometimes happen. I will ultimately be driving and someone cuts me off, or there's an accident, or someone decides, what, they want to try to make the light and then they block the traffic so you can't pass. And so, which happens here a lot in Los Angeles, unfortunately. But it does come, thank you. But when it comes right down to it, is the fact that, what, I was not the one in the accident. Okay. So I'm gonna, if I left when I was ready and I came in, great. That's why I try to come in earlier to meetings, because what happens if the meeting, in Los Angeles, we go in And we have meetings that are based on a couple Zoom accounts. So what happens if the meeting before yours didn't turn off the Zoom account ahead of time? Well, it's good to then be able to go on and contact those. If you come in right at that time and no, everyone did that, then the meeting would always start late. So if you can do it, don't delay. And so right now, that's what I'm trying to do. At least spend 15 minutes of things that I need to do. So I have a list, which I try to do every day. And that list grows and shrinks according to the day of things I might need to do. There is one of letting go of the past. There's a line in the big book. For me, I don't know it verbatim, but it's letting go of the things from the past. Well, I have a lot of little stuff in the past that I don't let go. And so I've been going through a perpetual spring cleaning for the last 20 plus years, maybe more. And so every day I do a little bit, and I don't have to get the whole room clean. I don't have to get all my stuff done. But I do go in, and now I have when I go at it, I'm going, it's one of three items. Am I keeping it and going to use it? Is it something that I need later on, or I want to store and save? Is it, that's also number one. Number two, do I want to throw it away? And number three, do I want to donate it? Those are it. And those are the three things. And if it's one of those, if it's number one, then I can put it aside and try to put it in its place. Number two and three, instead of trying to do it all in one go, I now start going every day when I'm done, or every couple of days. I then either throw it away or I take it and donate it. I don't have to do it all in one big pile, so I don't have to do it perfectly. And that's one of the things that just was really evident, is the fact that I still try to do things perfectly, because to me, when I was growing up, it was very much that I was criticized when I didn't do things right. I didn't tie my shoes right. I had an issue with my socks. The fact that there was a seam on the inside, it bothered my feet, my toes. So I had to invert my socks. As an adult, I look back and I'm like, my parents could have just given me that, reverse my socks, but, they didn't think of that, whatever it is. As an adult, I can say that, I can look at it and say that could have been an easy thing to do. My role is the fact that right now, it doesn't bother me now, but do I still want to carry that around? And it's sometimes I still do, and I will always have these resentments, and these resentments are easy to do, especially with my family and with concerning. But it's letting go of, trying to let go of that emotion that goes with it. And so yes, it's easy. You can forgive, but don't forget, which comes up. And overall, when it still comes down, sorry, I also like to sometimes go a little bit off track. So I will try to get back on track. But how it is right now.
1 minute.
Thank you. I try to be of service, not expecting anything from that. I know I'm a compulsive overeater for the rest of my life. When I'm asked to do a service, I do. And I look at this as a fact that, what can I do today? I will still fantasize about the future. I still think of the past, but when I do, I know that distracts me from what today is. So it's one day at a time for me. It's what can I do for the next 24 hours? Because that's all it is. And I know it sounds, it's this thing, it sounds kind of easy. And then I know when you look at it and you're like, oh, I can't do it. That's why I talk to my sponsor. If I am having trouble with it, or I talk to a fellow, the issue was, one of the times when that came up was, I wanted these fries, which this one person, I went to a baseball game and they bought fries and put them next to me. And then they didn't eat them for 4 innings, which is, 8 turns at bat for teams. And I couldn't comprehend that. How can someone buy this, let that warm, wonderful smelling item sit there for like a half hour, not even touched? And that's what makes me a compulsive overeater. So I texted, my fellows, and sure enough, I got support. And that's what this program's given to me, is people I could talk to who understand exactly what I'm going through and who understand that. So with that, I thank you for being invited. Thank you for letting me be of service, and turn the meeting back over to Rita.
Oh, thanks so much, Mark. That's lovely. Thank you so, so much. I'm just going to read now a little extract from the big book after Mark's talk. It's one of the stories called Because I'm an Alcoholic. The most precious discovery is who I really am. Like all of us, a being far beyond any of the ego selves, any of the fantasies I'd made up. That sense of being different, which had long plagued me, disappeared when I saw the threads that run through all of us. Sharing our stories, our feelings, it is the areas where we are the same that impressed me. The differences are but delightful flourishes on the surface, like different colored costumes, and I enjoy them. But the basic ways we are human, the basic ways we simply are, stand out to me now. I come to see that we really are one, and I no longer feel alone.